What's going on, people? Back again with actually a Showdown replay today. And I haven't uploaded in a while because I actually just finished up with school, which is really nice. So I don't have a summer class starting up for another 6 weeks. I'm still waiting on my one grade, but I feel I did pretty well this semester, all things considered. But either way, I just had this game. I'm on the left, by the way. I'm rocking the Playing Pokemans. It's just an alt that I was using for testing out this team, and this game actually turned out to be really good. And let me just run through my team real quick and just tell you my thought process going into this game. That's the one thing I like about Showdown replays, is I can kind of take my time with everything. And my team is Special Defensive and the Mixed Wall Skarmory with Iron Head, Scarf Tyranitar with Ice Punch and Super Power, Tail Glow, Water, Ice, Grass coverage, Manaphy, Standard Tank Chomp with Fire Blast, Dual Stab, Dragonance Roost Charizard X, and Life Orb, Rapid Spin, Sword Stance Excadrill. And when I looked at my opponent's team, I realized, okay, Manectric is a huge threat until I'm able to Mega Evolve my Charizard. Landorus, I was pretty sure was Scarfed, and that Skarmory would be the Stealth Rocker. Latias was going to be offensive defog because, of course, he's using it. Keldeo was going to be a massive threat because I do have ways of dealing with it. Like, my Manaphy does have Energy Ball, and my Skarmory is Special Defensive, but both of those are just soft checks at best. I really don't have a great Keldeo answer. Bisharp shouldn't be too big of an issue, and his own Skarmory, I had to get rid of it. But pretty much my game plan going into this was get up as many hazards as possible, get rid of the Keldeo, and get rid of the Landorus, and win with and set up with my Charizard X and win. But it was going to be harder than I thought. But I looked at the lead and said, okay, my best lead is definitely my Tyranitar, because, you know what, the only lead that I was, like, really afraid of was, because I didn't think he was going to lead with Keldeo. He was either going to lead with Manectric or Landorus, and if he led with Landorus, I would go straight to my Skarmory and gain momentum, but it was going to be an uphill battle because I just really didn't have too much for that Manectric. But let's start this game because I've been rambling for a little while now. So I'm going to lead off with my Tyranitar as my opponent actually leads off with the Manectric. And turn one, I actually make a horrible play. What I should have done was I should have gone for the for the Stone Edge. Now, I actually ended up clicking Pursuit turn one because I'm like, oh, Manectric is faster, and completely forgetting that Manectric has normal Manectric speed first turn, and that it doesn't, and that because I wanted to Pursuit it for extra damage so that I could weaken it with entry hazards. Forgetting he outspeeds me, Pursuit's going to do nothing, and now I'm Choice Scarf locked into Pursuit, and he's got a Keldeo. As my opponent brings in said Keldeo, and when I see the leftovers, I realize this thing is Subcom Mind, and it's a massive threat. But seeing the leftovers, realize I have to do something about it, and that's when I bring in my Manaphy, realizing I cannot allow this thing to set up because I do have ways of dealing with it. Like I said, my Tyranitar does have Scarf Superpower if worse comes to worse. But I have to stop this Keldeo from destroying me right now. But I'm not in the worst of positions, but I'm definitely not in a good position. But I pretty much realized this is the best use that I'm going to get from my Manaphy, as I'm just going to click Energy Ball. The Secret Sword luckily is not a 2-hit KO because Manaphy's bulky, and I'm able to break his sub with the Energy Ball. Now, I thought he was going to switch into Latias, so I'm going to go for the Ice Beam. My opponent makes a great play and actually subs up predicting that, and he's going to be able to get off an extra hit with the Secret Sword, which, yet again, was definitely an excellent play. Then, at this point, I'm just going to click Energy Ball because I don't want that Keldeo setting up. It's already a threat. I'm willing to trade my Manaphy for weakening the Keldeo, and I'm just going to bring in my Garchomp because I know since he's Subcom Mind, he's not going to be carrying the Icy Wind, and I am not messing with this threat anymore. I'm just going to go straight for the Earthquake as my opponent brings in his Landorus. Now, at this point, I was pretty sure that this was Scarf Landorus, so I'm like, okay, I can deal with Bisharp if I need to. Like, I do have ways of playing around the Bisharp. I need to get my Stealth Rocks up to start wearing his team down, as it turns out that my opponent is actually defensive Landorus, and we end up trading Stealth Rocks. Now, at this point, because he's defensive Landorus, this thing, it's a threat, but it pretty much made me realize one thing. If I set up a +1 with my Charizard X and weaken this Landorus just a little bit, I'm going to absolutely clean sweep his team. He really doesn't have a good answer if his Landorus is weakened. So I'm going to bring in my Skarmory, knowing Landorus really can't do all that much to Skarmory, as my opponent actually predicts me, goes for the knockoff, kind of a good middle ground play, and then just U-turns out as I believe I just set up a layer of spikes as my opponent ends up bringing in Bisharp. Now, this was a bit of a questionable play. My opponent goes for knockoff, and I'm just going to roost up. He already knocked off Skarmory's item, and it turns out that it's actually a Life Orb Sharp. Because he went for that, and because of the structure of his team, I'm pretty sure that's actually Pursuit Sharp. If he was Swords Dance Sharp, that would have been a massive problem. But luckily, I'm pretty sure he didn't actually have the Swords Dance. I didn't know for sure. But I'm going to be able to roost up on that. He switches to Manectric. And this thing is... Oh yeah. I ended up Whirlwind just in case he went for Swords Dance. But he goes into Latias. He's going to be able to defog the hazards away. And I'm just going to roost just on the off chance he has like HP Fire or something. When I see the Side Shock, the crit didn't end up mattering. I'm just going to set up Spikes because even if he wants to defog this Skarmory, I want to make sure that I keep my Spikes up at all costs because of hazards being so important. Now, I actually just roost up expecting him to defog again, and I'm just going to go into my Tyranitar as my opponent predicts Garchomp. There was no way I was going into Garchomp, but HP Ice was definitely a good middle ground play. But at this point, Manectric is going to be able to outspeed me. I realize one thing. Now, my moveset on Tyranitar is Stone Edge, Ice Punch, Superpower, and Pursuit. If I lock myself into either Stone Edge, Pursuit, or Ice Punch, that's going to give Keldeo a free substitute, which I 100% do not want. Because at this point, my Manaphy is already weakened, and if that Keldeo is able to get up another substitute, I'm probably losing at least 2 Mons, and then I really have no chance. So my only play here is going for Scarf Superpower, just to prevent that Keldeo from possibly trying to come in and set up a sub and go for game, as my opponent goes into Landorus, which is completely fine with me. Unfortunately, Landorus is a problem, but I do have to weaken the Landorus anyway, as I make well, this was one of those plays that at the stir of the moment, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll bring in my Charizard X. He already showed me Knockoff and U-Turn. So his moveset's going to be Earthquake, Knockoff, U-Turn, and Stealth Rocks. He's not going to have, he's not going to end up having the, what is it? The Stone Edge. I'm like blanking right now, sorry about that. But then I see how much Knockoff does, and I realize one thing. He can keep clicking Knockoff until I have to Roost, and then he Earthquakes, and I lose my win con. So that was definitely a bad play on my part. I thought Knockoff would do a little bit less, but between the combination of being fully offensive Zard, it's not like I'm bulky Zard, and then I guess I'm just underestimating Landorus, because, you know what, Landorus, even if it's defensive, it's really strong. But at this point, I'm going to make the correct play now and actually go into my Skarmory as my opponent just U-turns out. So, good thing is Skarmory baits in his Manectric, and it's really getting whittled down by the entry hazards and the Sandstorm. But I'm going to be able to go into my Tyranitar on a probable Volt Switch, but I'm able to live as my opponent brings in Landorus, and I have the Ice Punch. Now, the Ice Punch, it was a -1 Ice Punch. I knew it wasn't going to kill, but I really needed damage against the Landorus, because if I'm able to get off a lot of damage, once I'm able to put him in range, what I really wanted to do was, I thought the Ice Punch would do probably about 65-70%. I didn't end up calcing it. I know it's weird. I run a lot of calcs. I didn't end up calcing that. I thought it would do a little bit more than that, so I wanted to put him in range of Adamant Flare Blitz from Charizard, because as soon as I put him in Adamant Flare Blitz range, it baits in anything that my Skarmory walls, which would have been really good, and I was not expecting him to bring in the Keldeo there. So I'm able to get off the Ice Punch, and unfortunately, I get a really nice freeze. Now, if my opponent went for Stealth Rocks, I'd never Mega Evolve my Charizard. I'd be able to spin on either the Latias, the Skarmory, or, well, those are the main two. Possibly the Landorus for a Rapid Spin kill, but I wouldn't be able to use my Charizard as well. So that, if he went for the U-turn and KO'd my Charizard, it would suck, but that was a really nice freeze. I don't think it was definitely a game-changing big time, but I don't think that it determined the outcome of the match. And you guys will see why. Now, at this point, I'm just going to go for another Ice Punch, because yet again, I just wanted to weaken that Landorus, and hopefully getting a low roll. I know it sounds weird, hopefully getting a low roll. I didn't want to KO that Landorus, or I wanted him to KO me, because as soon as that happened, I brought in my Charizard. Oh no, I would bring in my Excadrill, click Iron Head, and then that would pretty much stop almost anything that could happen, because Skarmory, pretty much what it comes down to is I didn't want Keldeo setting up under any circumstances, as my opponent is able to stay frozen one more turn. Now, like I said before, if I KO'd him with Ice Punch, he brings in Keldeo and sweeps my entire team. So I'm going to bring in my Skarmory, half hoping that he stays frozen, half if he doesn't, you know what, Skarmory is the best thing to have in, so I can start spike stacking again. And his only form of hazard removal is his Latias, which would get rid of his own Stealth Rocks for my Charizard, which is nice. So I gotta keep up offensive pressure, and my only attacking move is Iron Head. But he's gonna U-turn out, realizing he can't really do anything, and I can just hazard stack on him. I'm just gonna Whirlwind expecting the U-turn, as I do catch his Skarmory. I'm going to set up a layer of spikes as he Whirlwinds me out and brings me into my Charizard. Now, my best play by far is going for Roost so that he doesn't KO me. He was probably playing on the, he possibly doesn't have Roost option and just wanted to KO my Charizard. Now, the only reason I'm not Mega Evolving is because, like I said, his Landorus doesn't have Stone Edge. So, I want to keep the ground immunity as long as I can. And on top of that, just there was that, and I also didn't want Latias dropping Dracos for free, and I had my reasons. But I'm gonna be able to get into my Excadrill, and I'm definitely spinning at this point because the Stealth Rocks are getting really annoying, and that was my opportunity as I get Whirlwind into Charizard, and yet again that's a free Roost as my opponent actually hits me with Toxic. Now the Toxic, it was good, but it was bad at the same time, because while it meant that Charizard was getting whittled, it also meant that, well, yes, I was able to heal back to full, and I'd be able to take on the Manectric a lot easier because Charizard is really my only answer to Manectric at this point. At this point, pretty much my main way of winning was Charizard plus Skarmory just beat his entire team. And but having that Toxic just put immense pressure on Charizard and pretty much means I'm not getting the Dragon Dance sweep, because between Flare Blitz and Toxic and just damage in general, there's no way I'm going to be able to get a Dragon Dance sweep. But I'm going to be able to get off of Flare Blitz at this point. Skarmory lives on because of Sturdy, and he's going to be able to Whirlwind me out. So I luckily get my Garchomp, which is nice because I'm going to be able to set up my Stealth Rocks against this as he Toxics my Garchomp. Now, I have Fire Blast, so if he wanted to Roost up, that was fine, because if he was physically defensive Skarm, which it looked like he was, he might have been special defensive. I don't think he was, but it wouldn't have ended up really mattering. But Latias comes in. I'm going to stay with my Garchomp and go for the Dragon Pulse, because I want to force, I want to force one of two things. I either wanted to force him to defog and KO his Latias, which was his defogger, because then I'd be able to bring in my Skarmory and start spike stacking again, and that would also clear the Stealth Rocks off of my side of the field. Oh, and I already spun, what am I talking about? But I'd be able to keep spike stacking, which would have been really good, or he KOs my Garchomp, which I really didn't need at that point. I mean, it would have been nice to keep for Bisharp, but I didn't need it because I still had my Skarmory. But I'm gonna bring in my Tyranitar. Now, yet again, if I Ice Punch, Pursuit, or Stone Edge that Latias, he wins with Keldeo. I was actually expecting him to hard switch into the Keldeo, feeling that I am not going to superpower this turn, or that I'm not superpowering this turn, which that would give Keldeo, like, it would pretty much just cause too many problems. So I'm actually going to pull a double switch into my Excadrill, expecting the Keldeo come in, as my opponent goes for Healing Wish. Now, at first I was questioning why did he not defog, and because that would bring Manectric healthy again, and Manectric was pretty much his only check to Skarmory at that point. Because if I were able to get the Keldeo, having Excadrill and then having Landorus, which which would have been like almost KO'd by Stealth Rocks, pretty much he needed Manectric to win. Otherwise he was like beat by Skarmory. So he ended up Healing Wish first of all, and realizing he needs the Manectric and brings it right in. And then realizes he's just gonna sack his Landorus because it's really not doing him any good. As I just tried to take it out because I know I can just KO with Iron Head next turn anyway. I really have nothing to risk. I'm running Sandrill, and the more he switches, the more damage that happens. Now at this point, I'm gonna just stay in. I wasn't sure if I could take a Sucker Punch, but based on the damage from before, I was pretty sure he was Jolly Bisharp, and because he was Life Orb, yet again, I didn't really calc it, but you know what? Excadrill, it does have a decent amount of HP. It's not the most defensive thing in the world, but it does have a decent HP stat. But I end up living the Sucker Punch. If I had died there, I brought in Skarmory and just kept Whirlwinding, which at that point, as I said, if I get Keldeo in, it's in range of Hazards plus Scarf Superpower, and between the combination of Bisharp and Manectric at that point, Skarmory plus Charizard won the game. So it wasn't game-changing that I lived. I'm able to get off the Earthquake and causing a double down at this point, which my opponent's only way of winning at that point would be to bring in the Keldeo on either the Charizard X or the Skarmory. And if my opponent brings in Manectric, that's fine. I'm going to bring in my Tyranitar, knowing it's my best way of dealing with Keldeo with Scarf Superpower. And if my opponent does bring in Manectric, that's fine. Sack off my Tyranitar, bring in my Charizard, Dragon Dance up, and win. So that was my game plan, as I am able to catch the Keldeo at this point. I'm going to be able to take it out with a Life Orb Superpower, and that's basically game, because at this point, because Charizard is poisoned, it can't even be paralyzed by Thunderbolt. So no amount of hacks my opponent can possibly get can win him this game. He's just going to Thunderbolt, take out my Tyranitar, and Charizard is going to be able to live the Thunderbolt. Even a crit wouldn't kill, and I'm going to be able to take it out with the Flare Blitz. So that was a really good game to my opponent. The freeze was really unfortunate. It definitely changed the complexion of the game, considering I was able to get off massive damage against the Landorus. I have no idea how the game would have played out from there. Like I said, especially after that horrible start that I had, I don't want to say that the hacks helped me get back into it. It definitely helped me, but yet again, I don't think it really determined the outcome of the game. It really was a case of make sure Keldeo sets up. I cannot set up again after I lost my Manaphy. But yet again, good game to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you do, maybe check out my channel, check out my other content. Like I said, I do dual comps with my friend Scott from time to time. I've been doing a Pokemon Ruby Randomizer Nuzlocke, which I do have to, I gotta keep uploading. I pretty much, well, to those who don't watch Scott, he lost like everything, and he was the one making my thumbnails, so I gotta get new thumbnails. But I'm not gonna worry about that right now. I've been going on long enough. But hope you guys enjoyed. Till the next time. Later, guys.